So please, a big hand for Skip Fidura from DOTMAILER.
Thanks, Urban. Good morning. So is Urban, sorry, I'm American. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you. So as Urban mentioned, I have been in the industry for 19 years. My time split between the US and the UK. That has two kind of big ramifications for this presentation and for you as an audience. The first one is that if it's okay, I'm going to do this presentation in English because my Swedish is really not at all. I have none, basically. And the second thing is I'm going to try really hard not to make any references to the fact that 2016 just wasn't a very good voting year for me. I lost a couple of big elections, and well, enough said on that. So I am here today to talk about how you can hit the mark and win, and I'm going to be presenting some data from our Hitting the Mark report from 2017. It comes out on April 1st, and we'll make sure that you all are able to get copies of that. And what I really want to stress is that, I guess, just as a question, how many people here would consider themselves working for one of the top brands in Sweden? One of the brands that has a lot of money, a lot of resource, and a lot of, tech. All right, these three gentlemen right here. If you look at these three gentlemen, I'm going to tell you how you can beat them. I'm going to tell you how you can. Yeah, sorry guys. Anyway, so just to get started. So. There we go. We all love email, right? Everybody loves email. Consumers actually love email. And I'm going to get to some stats that might belie that in a minute. But what we're seeing is that consumers prefer email to build and maintain a relationship, and that's the key word, a relationship with a brand by more than 2 to 1 over all other channels and across every age group. Even those pesky millennials. How many of you in here were born after 1980 or after? So you're all the pesky millennials. You don't use email. And you don't use email to maintain a relationship with brands or sorry, let me try that again. You don't use email to maintain a relationship with friends and family, but we're brands. We're not a friend or family, right? And email is where people want to be. What we're seeing is that when a consumer receives a relevant email, the most likely action they're going to take is to click through on that email directly to the website. And that most likely action is actually going up. Consumers are reporting increasingly that that's the action they're going to take. They want to use the email as the portal into your brand. And at the same time, we as marketers love email. Why? Well, it's cheap, right? It is a great way to build a relationship. It is one of the only channels that we own the delivery of, all the way until the last foot. It's just when it gets to the ISP that we start to lose a little bit of that control. And what we're seeing in the UK is that 50% of all email marketers are getting more than £10 back for every pound they spend. And across B2B, B2C, all marketers, the average ROI is over £30. So as marketers, we love it because it works. It allows us to see what people are engaging with, how they're interacting, and we make a lot of money back on it. But there's always a but, right? All the good news stories always have a but. And we have gotten to that point. We are at a crossroads with email. So this is some Swedish data from the Swedish Advertising Association. It's a report they released last summer. 18% of Swedish consumers, only 18% of Swedish consumers are favorable to advertising. And that's down from something like 54% 10 years ago, right? So consumers are increasingly not keen on advertising. They never really have been keen on advertising, but now they're willing to say advertising is horrible. In the UK, advertising or advertisers are less popular than lawyers and insurance salesmen. Wow, imagine that dinner party. So, and it gets a little worse. Because I turn this around, I try to make it positive, try to be glass half full. 19% of Swedish consumers don't hate email. That doesn't mean they like it. They're just not willing to say, I hate it. And why is that? Why are people increasingly tired of advertising and email, specifically advertising using email? And I think it's because of this statistic. So 19% don't hate it, 81% hate batch and blast. Now, if I can go back to some UK data for a second, 85% of UK consumers say that more than half the emails they get are irrelevant. So I want to put a couple of bits and pieces together here for you. If you ask a consumer if they like advertising, they're always going to say no. They're always going to say they don't like marketing. Why? Because in their minds, marketing is irrelevant. Marketing isn't useful. If I get an email or somebody puts something through, you guys remember paper, right? I mean, I know cash is a little hard to come by in this country, but paper. Somebody sticks paper through my door slot, 2 flyers. One is for lawn care, somebody to mow my grass. And the other one is for new windows. Now, I live on the flight path for Heathrow, so you can imagine that double, triple, quadruple glazed windows would be really important to me, right? That's useful. That's not marketing. I don't have a lawn. I don't have a yard. There is no yard work to be done. That is actually nothing but, that's not only not useful, it has now caused me to have to pick it up, read it, figure it out, and then drop it in the recycling bin. It's caused me extra work. So, this is the scariest stat for me. 42% of marketers agree with the consumers. 42% of UK marketers say that only some or none of the emails they send are relevant. Now think about that for a second. How depressing would it be to have a job where you got paid to be completely ineffective? There probably is a Trump joke in there, but I'm not going to go there. So, email is more popular than ever, almost despite our efforts to kill it, right? We are not fulfilling on email's promise. And it's very cliche, and I apologize, but getting the right message to the right person at the right time. So, what are we going to do about that? Well, okay. This is where our Hitting the Mark report comes in. And very quickly, what we did, we've been running this report since about 2007. When we started it was just pick some brands, who's doing email well, who's not doing email well. We've expanded it this year. We looked at 50 UK brands and 50 US brands, and we went through the whole buying cycle. We went through the customer life cycle. We went to the website, and we signed up to the email, and we waited. And then we went back to the website, and we put something in the basket, and we waited. And then we bought the thing in the basket. And then we got the thing delivered. And then we interacted with the email, and then we stopped and waited. And so this was about a 6-month process. And over that 6 months, we learned a lot. So the first thing we learned, that these 100 brands are very, very, very aggressively adopting mobile. They recognize the trend that by the end of this year, 70% of all e-commerce transactions will be m-commerce. And they're reacting to that. One of the ways they're reacting to that is 71% of the brands in the report used some sort of mobile-friendly payment option, be it Klarna, be it Amazon Pay, be it PayPal, something that's one click and go. We even saw some brands that have skipped the e-commerce site altogether by putting a very specific product in the email and allowing consumers to buy directly out of the email. Click, pay, deliver. Done. But we were quite shocked by the number of brands who don't have responsive email templates, or the email template is responsive but doesn't work very well on every platform. So if we go back to the stat I was talking about earlier, that consumers are using email as a gateway into your website, and your email isn't responsive, why would they think your website is responsive? There's a phrase in the UK, it's called falling down at the first hurdle, and it's a horse racing metaphor about basically losing the race before you've even started. And that's exactly that's exactly what they're doing. Okay, how many of you have kids? Okay, so you can just keep swimming, just keep swimming. Now that's stuck in your head the rest of the day. I'm sorry. But everybody's seen Dory. Now what's the comedy hook in Dory? The comedy hook is she's got short-term memory loss. Every time Dory meets somebody, it's like for the first time, which is really frustrating for the person she's meeting if she's met them 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 times. And we're seeing the same thing with brands. Many of the brands in our study are not using any kind of personalization. It's almost like they don't even know who we are. And yet, we went to their website, we filled out every box in their form, we ticked everything we could tick, we interacted with the email, we interacted with the website, we bought stuff. They should have a lot of data on us. And they should know a lot about who we are, or who we were pretending to be, I guess. How on earth can you build a relationship if you're acting like Dory and just not recognizing the people that are coming into your site, the people you're trying to build a relationship with? You can't build a relationship if you're behaving like Dory. I'm sorry for showing this picture so early in the morning. This always makes me yawn. But the other thing we saw was some pretty uninspiring copy, some pretty uninspiring subject lines. If this is your shop window, you really want to get people energized. You want to get people really engaged. And I think what's driving that is the bean counters, the accountants. Any accountants here? No? Because the cost of failure in email or in digital, all digital, is so low on a per unit basis, they don't see the benefit of having good creative and good copy. And we as marketers know that I'm sending out an email to 50,000, 100,000, a million people. If it's crap, that doesn't look good on my brand. So going back to the 3 guys that we're trying to beat, I'm not saying that their emails aren't beautifully written, because I've never read them. And if I did, they're in Swedish and I couldn't read them anyway. But what we're seeing in the big brands is if you're a small brand, pay the extra for the copywriter, pay the extra for the creative, because it will pay dividends back. And the last thing I want to talk about on this is automation. Now, if I'd said, today we're going to go out and plow a field, how many of you would have had this picture in mind for plowing a field? Anybody here grew up on a farm? A couple people? So I grew up on a farm. Now, farms in America are just, like everything, just generally bigger. But this is not what plowing a field looks like, ever. Plowing a field means you go out to the tractor that's got like 2 or 3 screens in it, and full air conditioning, and a full sound system, and Netflix, and everything else. And you literally just push a button and the tractor goes. Because GPS is driving the tractor. GPS is taking you around the field. You're not driving it, right? You're there to make sure it doesn't run over something important. That's your job. It is not on the wrong end of a horse. But I use this as a metaphor because what we're also seeing these big brands still not adopting some really simple, basic email and marketing automation. So 14% of the brands aren't sending a welcome. If you will meet somebody new today. How would you react if you walked up and said, hey, I'm Skip, and they just did this? I've given them my data, and they haven't said anything. Not even thank you, right? Nor have they done anything to engage me, get more information out of me, tell me more about themselves. Nothing. But this is the one that killed me. I couldn't believe this. I made the research team triple check this. 60% of the brands in our study, so 60 out of 100 top brands, are not sending an abandoned basket email. And the business case writes itself. The business case is there, right? 2 quick examples. One, we've got one client. Now they have a very high average order value, okay? But they paid for their abandoned basket program with the first email they sent. Not the first month, or the first week, or the first day, the first. The revenue off that more than covered the cost of the program. We've got another client, much smaller average order values, much more typical, in the retail, fashion retail. They're reclaiming 50,000 pounds a month in lost baskets, or revenue off of lost baskets. That's revenue that would not have been there. It might as well go straight to the bottom line. So, to not do this is, it should be a sackable offense. If you don't have one, it's certainly commercial malfeasance. So, who won? So these are the top brands. Yeah? And there are going to be some brands that you would have heard of, some brands that you would have recognized. I have to say, one of the ones that surprised me, where are we? One of the ones that surprised me a little bit was EasyJet. I was like, EasyJet? Really? Good email? But then I thought about it. I don't think they actually sent it in this market. Maybe they did, but they did a 20th anniversary email that was just a blinder. They basically took all the data they had on each customer and packed that into the email. Where have you gone over the last 20 years? What seat did you usually sit in? What was your most popular destination? What was the total amount of luggage you checked in weight? All kinds of really interesting stuff. And what are these brands doing that the others aren't? Well, they're overcoming these three things. And this is my final thought for the day. These are the three top challenges that email marketers face: lack of strategy, data problems, and then limited internal resource, right? And what too often we try to do is we try to throw technology at the problem and solve these bottom ones. So the data one, let's just chuck a CRM at it. The limited internal resource, if we have some more automation or some better tools, we can solve that problem. And then we'll focus on the strategy. And what I'm here today to caution you on, and this may sound a little surprising as a technology vendor, is technology is not the silver bullet. Stop. Do the strategy bit first. Think about it. Because what you'll end up doing is buying the wrong technology if you're not careful. And as a technology vendor, I don't want to be the wrong technology bought. I think that we are a good fit for most of the people in the room, but we won't be a perfect fit for everybody. And we've got a case right now. We're working on an RFP, and we're really deciding whether we should not use it, not go after it, because it's not a perfect fit for us. So, I'm going to conclude with a little story. And the three gentlemen I highlighted earlier, think of them as a bear. And you're walking in the woods, and you run into them as the bear, right? Now, you're with a friend. The friend reaches into the rucksack and pulls out some running shoes, puts on the running shoes, and you say, "What are you doing? You can't outrun a bear." The friend's going to say, "I don't have to outrun the bear. I have to outrun you." You don't have to smash the big brands. You just have to outrun them a little bit by being just a little bit more clever, a little bit smarter. And to go with our mantra, coined by Justin, who's out at our stand, think big. Have those big thoughts, the big strategy. Start small and scale quickly. Thank you very much for your time.
So, I'm always, why is mail treated so unfairly by marketers? Why? Because the stats are there, the ROE is there. How many more market channels can you have a ROE on with 30?
Yeah, I don't know of any.
No.
One of the things that we see that's really frustrating is because even really big brands, their total spend on email as a percentage of the marketing budget is so small that it very often doesn't get the attention of very senior people in the marketing department.
So it's too cheap. It's too cheap. That's the main problem.
Yeah, I would love to say that. And so today we're announcing we're going to triple our prices. No, but that is the problem. On a per cost, if you're making a TV advert or a radio advert or doing a direct mail piece, the cost of doing that, the cost of getting that wrong, is so big that you'll focus on every single word in the copy until it's just perfect. The cost of getting an email wrong is fractions of a pence.
But as you told you during your presentation here, it's what does it make with your brand if you're sending out shit emails with no relevance that is totally uninteresting for the public?
Yeah.
What does it actually do to your
Well,
brand?
so one of the things that we do is we look at we help brands calculate the value of an email address. And when you start to put it into monetary terms, then the finance department starts to pay attention. So we'll look at, it's just a simple cohort analysis of all the people who receive your email who purchased something, and then we divide it by the number of purchasers and the total size of the list, and it gives you the average value of an email address and the average value of an email purchaser. And not only does that help finance get their head around every unsubscribe is that much value lost, but it also helps marketers determine how much they should spend to acquire an email and how much they should spend to get an email address they have that's never bought to convert.
We have a fantastic brand in Sweden called the Daniel Wellington, who's like made it just in a couple of years up to like 5 billion Swedish crowns in turnover and like 50% profit margin.
Fantastic.
Yeah, he sells watches, and he done everything with marketing through Instagram. That's his main channel. Do you know? Is there a lot of companies out there who done the same with email, like building the brand from zero to a lot just through email? Do you know that kind of companies? Do they exist?
They do exist. I think I'm not one of those people that likes to put all my eggs in one basket. So if you've got something very visual, a product to sell, Instagram's a great way to do it. But you have to keep pouring stuff in the top of the funnel because you can't really build a relationship through Instagram. So email is there to help build the relationship. How do you communicate in the times between the purchases? How do you support that purchase? How do you support that journey?
So if you're just going to say one thing to really get people going when it comes to segmentation and sending relevant emails, what is that? If you want to, when you talk to a brand, what do you say?
The easiest way to do it is look at how people are interacting with your email. If they're clicking on something, they're interested in that. If they're not clicking on it, they're not. That's the easiest way to get started. So if you can start to group your products, start to group your content, start to group your offers, then you're able to look at what people are responding to. And then if you want to take it one step further, start sending very specific emails with very specific subject lines. People will say, oh, but the open rate goes down. Yes, it does, but that's because people have self-identified. I'm not interested in that. I don't want to open that one. And then, you start to learn what they
Okay.
enter.
Thank you for a great presentation.
Thank you.
A big hand for Skip.
Thank you very much.